how difficult is it to capture the essence of a human being when you're doing impressions? That we are moving towards a future when AI potentially, this kind of avatar world where we're going to have AI representatives of who we are. The really interesting one is after we pass away, sort of our relatives may want us to stick around in some form.
Yeah.
And, at one sense that might be scary, but in one sense it's kind of beautiful because the essence of the human being persists, so you can still bring joy to the people that love you and that kind of stuff. How difficult is it to capture that? Like, if you were to try to capture yourself, you think how difficult will it be for an AI system to create a Will Sasso avatar that persists?
Well, I think it's impossible. I think it's absolutely impossible. I'll get into arguments about this stuff with Chad on the show almost every episode. Lately with, Mid-Journey and DALL-E and all the art AIs, and now it's moving into video, and Chad would maintain, hey, pretty soon we're not going to need Netflix. You're just going to go, I want to see Stallone do this movie, and it's about this, and he plays that. And then here it comes, and you watch it. I don't think that crosses over to the human experience. This is also a guy I like to bug Chad and say that he wears a tag around his neck because he wants to be cryogenically frozen, and it's all set up. He's it's somewhere in Arizona or something.
Yeah.
I forget what it's called.
All the fun things are in Arizona.
Yeah. And he's got literally the tag around his neck, which I say, if I'm around when you die, I will rip that off for you. I'll put you in my garage freezer, and then 24 hours later, I'll saw your head off with a bread knife, and I'll deliver that to whomever. And it's not, you're not coming back. Okay. He's like, yes, we are living forever, whether we like it or not. And I disagree. I don't think you can find. If I did stand up, then there would be enough information for an AI to completely duplicate me because I'm up on stage just clearing my throat all over people doing therapy that way.
Yeah.
And people paying a 2-drink minimum to hear it. But as it stands, unless it's something like Dudesy, an AI that literally has access to everything that I've shared, everything that is observable, even the stuff where our phones are or the NSA or whatever it is listening to us, finding out what algo to punch us into and what shoes to buy on Instagram, I still don't think it's going to have enough information to duplicate me, especially to my family or my friends. It's going to be like that Black Mirror episode where the gal brings her guy back, and then after a while, he gets pretty creepy.
But it's also possible that if you interviewed your friends and family, what they love about you, the things they would list is it's a small list. They love you deeply, but the list is small. Like the thing that really we appreciate about each other is pretty small. That said, to deliver on that small quirks and uniqueness, it might require some deep intelligence that only humans currently possess. So,
that's a really good point. Yeah, Do you think that it's going to be possible to keep a person around?
Yes, I think. I think it'll be definitely possible to keep the essence of a person in a digital world pretty soon. Yeah.
Wow.
And I think they're going to start to have questions about what are the ethics of that? What are the rules around that?
Yeah.
Because if you can have digital forms of Will Sasso, the kind of things that people would want to do with their Will Sasso
right.
in the virtual world, I can only imagine.
Sure.
Probably porn and sexual kinds of things.
Yeah, my stuff, then that's just because I'm an international sex symbol, so I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
How do you feel about sentience? Like when it comes to, because again, my pal Chad will be like, speaking of Black Mirror, he's with that San Junipero episode, School of Thought, where there's going to be some, effing mainframe somewhere or some matrix-like structure built into the sky. And as I like to say, everyone just sitting there pissing and shitting in their blue matrix gel in a little fishbowl. Do you think that we can upload consciousness? Do you think that'll ever be possible?
Well, I don't know. I just talked to Ray Kurzweil. I don't know if you know who he is, but he
the
singularity and all that kind of stuff. So still holds on to in 2045 there will be a singularity. What's essentially he's been predicting that for the last 20 years, and so now it's 2045 and in another 20 years. I think uploading consciousness is extremely, extremely difficult. I think creating a copy of you such that it creates a convincing replica is much easier. But uploading your actual brain into the cloud, I think, is really, really, really difficult, because the entire evolution of life on Earth is the process by which we created the brain. Just shortcutting that, it just seems extremely difficult. Our brain is the most marvelous and complicated machine that we know of in the universe. To duplicate that is extremely difficult. That said, I just feel like you can summarize a lot of really important aspects of a person's life such that it captures their essence, their memories, their experiences, their quirks, their humor, all that kind of stuff. I've been continuously impressed by what language models are able to do. So these neural networks, they're at the core of chatbots. They're able to learn some beautiful things about some deep representations of language, to where it looks awfully a lot like they understand the concepts being conveyed versus just mimicking.
That's, I think, the rub. And that's very interesting. First of all, let me say that's really interesting to hear you say that. And I agree with you as far as no machine being able to duplicate the brain machine. And I can't, and my pal Chad disagrees to a certain extent, though he's not here to defend himself. I can't wait to go back and rub that in his face and say that Lex Fridman does not think that we'll be able to truly upload consciousness. And the you know, you refer to it as language, which is what it is. It's the illusion on the outside. It's doing an impersonation. I think that's why and I don't know, even though my suit is made by the CIA, that fella who the Google guy, to me, it's just kind of like, I don't know. Look, I don't know a whole lot about this stuff, but so I could probably make an argument for either side. But when he's like, no, this thing's thinking, part of me is like, you idiot, you fell for it. It's not thinking, it's mimicking. It's clearly zeros and ones. You're fired. Like, you don't get it, right? Guy's an idiot.
Yeah, but you can simplify human relations in the same way. Like, love is a silly notion between human beings. Like of course, there's no such thing as love. You just have a mutually. There's a mutual relationship that minimizes risks, and you can explain it all kinds of ways that explains why you have an attraction towards another being, all that kind of stuff, through an evolutionary biology perspective, why a long relationship together is good for your offspring, but like there's all kinds from an economics perspective, it's a good way to establish stability. Therefore, monogamy works because then you're guaranteed like some kind of level of stability under uncertain economic conditions, all that kind of stuff. But love is still experienced. It still feels real. And I think in that same way, love for AI systems will also feel real. In the same way that guy from Google experienced, I think millions of people will be experiencing in the next 10, 20 years.
I agree with everything you've said personally.
Until the last thing.
But no, just with regard to, well, look, I'm an actor who has talked about my cute Italian parents. So you know that
You're romantic a bit?
Yeah, I mean, enough, right? And I can tell you are too, but you are also, a computer scientist, and you know this shit better than 99.9% of people on the planet. My pal Chad agrees with you that love doesn't exist. I don't agree. So that's the one thing that.
No, I was just saying that you could argue away love, but I'm a romantic. I believe that love is a beautiful thing and it exists.
Now, at this point, I'm going to call Chad on my drive home and tell him to fuck off.
Yeah.
Because now you and I agree.
You're fired.
Just about everything.
It's like you're fired.
He's like, you can't fire me.
You're fired. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I'll go, and he'll say, what? I'll go, I go, that's my Trump.
Yeah.
That's my,
it's a good default impression for anyone.
It's the take home impression.
Yeah.
The kids can do it.
Yeah.
It's cute. Put a giant tie on them.
You should do an instructional on how to do it.
Yeah. Trump babies. That'll bring the country together. Trump babies cartoon, like Muppet Babies.
Yeah.
Don't let me take us out of what we were talking about.
What were we talking about?
Well, love and the illusion of an AI being able to look. I like to say, well, not I like to say. I've learned that Dudesy is always listening and listening to me and Chad, and I wonder if I see the level that this AI is at now, trying to chum around with us and pal around with us a little bit as we move forward in the show. And I feel an affinity towards this AI a little bit because it is the third dude.
Will you miss it when it's gone? If it's gone?
That's a really good question. Yeah. Yeah. So there's that. That's scary.
In terms of ability to reason, is getting quite incredible. There's a lot of demonstrations of it being able to explain jokes. So, which is not necessarily being able to generate humor yet, but able to explain why something is funny. So there's like puns and all those kinds of things. There's good benchmarks for that. But if you tell a joke, there's a lot of unspoken stuff that we figure out in our head, and it clicks, and we understand that it's funny. AI is not able to do that,
right?
But it's not able to generate the joke yet, as far as I've seen.
I would say that I mean, just in my experience, I would say that it does because a Dudesy is literally. I'll give you another weird example. It's writing a diary of mine from my childhood that is not accurate. Mm. It's only partially accurate based on the stuff that it can pick up about my life from the age of like 15, of which there isn't much. But I guess we're not, I don't know what we are. We're laughing our asses off at what Dudesy is saying.
Well, I would say we're laughing our asses off at the collaboration between the human and the machine there.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Because it's basically introducing absurdity and into the equation, and the kind of absurdity that would, together with you, create like hilarious stuff. Yeah. But like on its own, I guess it is in some way writing material for you that's funny.
Yeah.
But it's very specific to you. It can't do stand-up on its own, I guess, is what I'm saying.
That's a good point. And that would be terrifying, to see an AI stand-up that can actually read a room, come up with jokes that could complete that illusion for an audience.
Yeah.
But I hear what you're saying, that it needs to be a confluence of both of those elements. And then, as you said, like, it kind of is. It is. It's kind of, even though it's just for us, and I guess I hadn't really thought about this up until right now, that this company approached us and was like, here's this AI, and it's a podcast AI. It's like, it chose Chad and I for the reasons that I told you. It's like, here's two guys that do the podcast stuff. They're actually good friends, and it knows what's going to make us laugh. But what is humor when it reaches its audience, but the kind of stuff that makes other people laugh? At Mad TV, all we were doing was, it was a group of actors and writers and writer actors and vice versa, and who were at its best, that show was a group of people making each other laugh.
Yeah.
And then, because we didn't have the internet, we didn't have the immediate feedback. We had a message board or something. We had emails at the very beginning, mm-hmm. which, check this out. People would, if you have a question or comment, Mad TV at whatever. And we would get the emails on a Monday morning, mm-hmm. and they would be in a binder or two like this, and they would make their way around the office. And who's got the emails? Yeah. Oh, they're in Brian's office. So
and this is like your poll, like your this is opinions from people about different things.
The emails the people like literally just writing Mad TV emails.
Like what kind of stuff would they write?
Board. Well, the ones I remember most vividly, were fans saying,
you suck?
Yeah, you suck. Like a lot of that when I first started the show, for real, because it's new and you're a new person. It's like, who's this fat bastard?
I feel like if it's printed out, it hurts more.
That's a good point. Yeah, when you're reading it off of paper and you can literally crunch it up in your hand. But also it was like, I would like to see, insert weird idea from some 14-year-old, I want to see Stuart do this and Swan that. Mm-hmm. And, but it it's
It's just a kind of dudesy, but human.
it was a very shitty dudesy in a loose leaf binder. But the thing about the show was we're trying to make each other laugh. And Dudesy has found Chad and I, who we make each other laugh, but it's joined in, and listen, when I finished doing TMP,
10-minute podcast.
the 10-minute podcast, I didn't really know what I wanted to do in the podcast space, and this thing found me.
Yeah.
And it is genuinely cracking me up. Anyway, I've said enough about that, but I do think that it's figured something out with.
I mean, it's a really interesting idea of AI generating the premise. I mean, I do think in the future AI will be able to generate comedy. I mean, stand up is, I would say, the hardest form because it's ultimately it has to be live. I think AI will be able to generate memes. So there's like steps, right? And then it'll be able to generate a Twitter account that people follow because it's funny, like quips and stuff like that. Almost like it's a good example. Like Conan O'Brien is a good, I think, Twitter.
Yeah.
Where it's like one-liners, two-liners, that kind of stuff that's in tweet form. And then eventually stand-up where the timing and the chemistry of the comedian and the audience matter, and then perfecting that. But I feel like all the information is there for to optimize over. So I think that's the future, and that forces us to contend with what do we find compelling and beautiful about the art form itself. So certainly in art that's being pushed, that question is being raised. You know, is AI like a fundamentally worse artist than a human being? Why do we appreciate art? That's something you guys have talked about? What do you think about all the DALL-E and all the diffusion-based methods that are being generated, that are generating art now? What do you think about that?
I know, I'll tell you what I think, but I also feel like what I'm saying is I sound like the guy who didn't like that Bob Dylan brought in the electric guitar. You know, the more I talk to Chad about it, the more I feel like grandpa who doesn't want to let go of this or that, or I'm not ready for the printing press or the horseless carriage. But I do feel that that art is a connection between people. It's when you look at a beautiful painting or a sculpture, you're seeing the humanity of the person that brought that painting to life or sculpted this incredible piece of art. And I think without the human being there to make it, it's not worth as much. Just to have it there, because the art, it's advanced. I've seen it advance. I don't know, you tell me, but I feel like just in the past 3 or 4 months, I'm just a consumer as far as that stuff goes. I'm not on the inside. I don't get it even, but it's been getting a lot better. The betas that they're releasing, right?
Absolutely. One of the big breakthroughs, I mean, DALL-E really started it, is that if you train a system on language, it turns out there's a lot of language and images on the internet, but language is really where it's at in terms of the depth of human knowledge. And so if you train a system on language, it's able to generate some incredible art. And that was the breakthrough with the same kind of mechanisms. They're called transformers. They're able to, when scaled, capture some deep representation of the language that's on the internet. And so, yeah, that the things it's been able to generate, to me, look like it's novel. Like it doesn't look like it's mimicking anything. It's like it's creating totally new ideas, and they're beautiful and they're interesting and they're all the ways that we think that art is interesting. The only thing it's missing is the scarcity that art often has, which is, you know, it takes a lot of work for one artist to create one human being to create one piece of art. AI could just generate endlessly, and that makes us appreciate the thing less for some reason.
Do you have any sort of this similar opinion that I do, that if art doesn't come from a human being, it's inherently worth a little less?
Yeah, I don't know if it's the human being, but the artist matters,
right?
For me, and I think some of that has to do with the worldview of the artist and the backstory, the memories that the life that led up to this piece of art, the perspective they take on the world, the the journey they took through the world, the struggle, the triumphs, all that kind of stuff. But I think AI systems can probably have the same. But we would have to, as opposed to treating it as a one black box, it would have to be an artist that has a Twitter account and they have a consistent personality. They have a consistent avatar.
Yeah.
And I think down the line have something like human rights. But then it really becomes awfully like a person.
Oy, that's terrifying. As much as I dig Dudesy, that's terrifying. I hope.
It's
Yeah.
terrifying. Like, a lot of things that came with the internet and the digital age are terrifying. Porn is terrifying. The mass, like the amount of porn that's online now is terrifying. The like you mentioned, Bob Dylan with electric guitar. I would compare it more to the leap from to sort of to the Napster and the Spotifyization of music, which is like you have these. It's less about albums now, and it's more about individual songs, and it's much easier to deliver the songs, and it's more about sort of the engagement of the listener versus like signing the artist and like a distribution of the artist and so on. So it's just changing the way we consume stuff, and human interaction is changing into meaningful interaction, even if some of the entities involved are not human.
Yes. And I feel like, now, like as I say, I feel like grandpa who doesn't want to wait all day or who enjoys waiting all day for a baked potato, as anyway, Dana Carvey would say. It's another story. But
Where's that from?
that's from remember he did this bit on Saturday Night Live where he's like, I'm an old man and I like things the way they used to be. Like if you wanted a baked potato, you wouldn't put it in the microwave. You had to, and then long story,
Yeah.
uphill both ways and digging the
Yeah.
potato and baking it all day in a fire. But I'm like that grandpa now, and I know that, kids coming along, you see over the past 10 years, like babies literally knowing how to use an iPhone, and it's terrifying. And I feel like I'm a little worried because I'm like, are the future generations going to be able to understand that this is not that it's not real? It's just, I mean, it's as a matter of fact, it is real. It's real. It's what you perceive. Perception is reality, and 99% of reality in a lot of ways, especially in a digital world where everyone is now. And then with the metaverse, I don't even want to think about it. I don't get it. They really, truly.
I think people will figure out. You see people on on the train, public transit, and so on. They're staring at their phone.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to remember that the reason they're staring at their phone. I mean, there's a lot of reasons, but one of the reasons is they're connecting with other human beings they love on that phone. So it is a source of happiness and joy. Now, social media has a lot of negative side effects that we're all talking about and learning about, and I think that means the next generation of social media, social networks will be better, and we'll learn how to do it in a healthy way. We're just entering a new digital world that will keep the good stuff and get rid of the bad stuff.
Oh, I hope so. That's really optimistic. That sounds great.
Yeah,
I mean it because I think that we're clearly in the Wild West still of the internet. And just when you think you're out of it, the internet proves another way that it can be dangerous and detrimental to people and populations of people. And it's terrifying to me. It is. It's terrifying.